Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Fabulous. I am well also. My name is Beverly Garcia. I realized I gave my panelists name tags and I didn't create one myself, but I'm the facilitator, so they're the ones on the hot seat. They're going to answer all our questions this morning. I am the work-based learning coordinator here at Miramar, and what that means is that I'm here to support faculty to do these kind of events. And as students, I want you to think about how can you gain a glimpse of possible careers. Maybe some of you are undecided still, but how can you gain a glimpse or a good idea of what possible careers look like while you're still at school? How many people have ever heard of informational interviews? Okay, cool, many of you. And that's when you get to interview someone that's doing the job that you're thinking that you might want to do. So that's one kind of a simple way. It's not simple like, it doesn't come without nerves, right? Interviewing someone, asking them a bunch of questions, that still kind of makes us uncomfortable, out of our comfort zone. But you can just Google, what should I ask in an informational interview, you'll get questions. So that's just one example of what we call work-based learning, but what is really important for you is how do I start learning about careers while I'm a student? And how many of you are transfer students?
Meaning transferring on?
Transferring to a four-year school. That's what I meant, sorry, I didn't say that question right. I want you to keep that in mind when you go to university. So many students, I went to a community college in Washington State. When I finished that, I had no clue what I wanted to do. Then I just stayed out of school for a while, and I finally went back to university. So that's when, throughout our whole career, our whole college life, we need to be exploring careers, trying to do jobs that are related to our potential career, trying to get internships so that we gain a good idea and we know that we're in the right area of study before we graduate, right? Does that make sense? You don't want to finish school, spend all that time and that energy and that money, and then realize that you studied the wrong thing. So that's kind of a little bit about what I do, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Mona, and she's going to share more about what we do here in this beautiful center.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I want to say thank you to your professors for valuing this important piece of really connecting what all of you are learning in the classroom to the real world. And it's really hard when, even for us who are educators in career and life design space, to really predict and see what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of the workplace setting. There's so many new career fields that are emerging that, they might not exactly have the titles, but we see like a trend in the skills that are being sought after. And so a lot of times partnering with employers and learning from people who are really doing the work in different industries is really helpful in connecting the dots. For today specifically, when we look at communications and public speaking skills, we want to encourage you to really think. You may not know what you want to do career-wise, and that's okay. But we really want you to think about the different ways that we might be using our communication skills. And sometimes in fields or in places that we never would have imagined. And then also know that our area, specifically career and life design services, regardless of our titles, whether it's work-based learning, career counseling, at the end of the day, we want to help each of you get closer to whatever that future career goal looks like. So that could be, helping you with mock interviews, building confidence. It could be helping you with your resumes and cover letters and, editing or talking it through. It could be, I've never created a LinkedIn profile, I need support with that. It could be, I moved from a different country and I have this career there, and now I feel like I kind of have to reinvent myself, and I can't do what I wanted to do before, but that's okay, I'm open to new ideas. Like, all of your journeys look different. And so we just want you to know that in this space, whether you need help looking for a job, an internship, if it's, I hate interviews, but I know I need to practice, just can you talk me through potential questions that we could get asked for an interview? We do a lot of events. Maybe you've seen us out at Compass Point. We just had a job fair yesterday. We do a lot of employer type of events like this today. So again, we have our website, we have our social media, we have this beautiful space, but definitely utilize us, because I never went to my career center as an undergrad, and I ended up paying for the alumni package, realized, wow, what a wealth of different resources. And I think that kind of led me to my journey of wanting to work in like a career center or career life design services. So thank you.
I'm pretty new in my job. I've only been here a few months, but I hear lots of people talking about this location as a hidden jewel. So now that you've been here once, please remember to come back. If you're, ready to get some help on your way out, you can go to the front desk and ask for an appointment with one of our career counselors. We want you to really utilize this space. So now we're going to get into our panel, and I'm so thrilled that we have our guest speakers here. I know both of these gentlemen because they have already contributed time to be involved with our college at other events. So I scooped them up and said, will you come back and speak about public speaking? There's, whatever your stories are. So instead of me introducing them, my first question for them is they're going to introduce themselves. So this one will just go down the row, and just please share your name, your job title, and if you can, one word that describes your communication style. I'm not sure if that's on.
Hello? There we go. So my name is Drew Dickman. I work for Solar Turbines. You may have seen one of our facilities by the airport, and also I work at the Kearney Mesa facility. So my job title is Engine Test Liaison, so not very descriptive. With Solar Turbines, we produce gas turbine engines, and I work with our test engineers and our test technicians who test the engines, and I kind of help out with engines that are failing to meet the customer specifications, and kind of communicating that out and determine what we're going to do for a path forward. One word that would describe my communication style is definitely adaptive. Kind of mentioned with that, I'm working with deep technical experts, engineering experts. I'm working with mechanics that build our engines, and I'm working with project managers that have to communicate with the customer what's going on with their engine. So I have to work on kind of communicating and translating information between those different groups.
Hey everyone, my name is Will Sikora. I'm the internship program manager for Supervisor Joel Anderson. Luckily, my title is pretty descriptive. I manage the supervisor's internship program at our El Cajon office. One word to kind of describe my communication style is thoughtful. I know it's a little bit cheesy, but within politics, a lot of the times what we say, whether we are working on a campaign or working for an elected official, it represents whoever we're working for, and so we have to be very thoughtful about the way that we talk and the way that we speak to the public, speak to our interns, constituents, or even speaking to the elected official themselves. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Mona Patel. I am a career counselor here in this beautiful space. I've held multiple roles in the last 10 years. I've worked here for 10 years. So I started out as a coordinator, which is similar to a director who oversees the functions of the whole department. And it was just me. And then we grew to this big space over the years with a bigger staff, which has been wonderful. I've also taught personal growth classes, so I'm not a faculty member like your two professors here where I teach every semester, but I do get to be in the classroom once in a blue moon, which is nice to balance with the counseling side. So my background is in career counseling. I realized that I love working with students and alumni who have no idea or pivoting from one career to another. It's very daunting trying to figure out what to major in, or when you feel this pressure to try and figure out a career. And I feel that there's a lot of bad advice out there, so I find a lot of joy. And then I also have the wonderful opportunity for a year to take on an administrative role, which I realized I kind of knew going into it, but I was like, no, I'm more of a counselor, but I was an acting associate dean too at one point. And so one word that would describe my communication style would be respectful. Regardless of titles, if I'm speaking to students, faculty member, the president, any of my colleagues, I think, or kids, or people outside of the workplace setting, I would like to think that my style is respectful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We don't have to go in order. We want this to be very much of a dialogue. So whoever wants to answer the next question, just grab the mic. And I failed to tell you before that Professor Tori Romero and I worked on these questions together. Actually, she did all the work. So she came up with the questions because we want to make sure they're tied to your curriculum. And this is going to take only part of the time we're together, and then there'll be time for you guys to ask any of them additional questions. So whoever wants to start, we're going to talk about workplace communication. How do you use communication and public speaking skills in your day-to-day work, and can you please share an example?
I'll go ahead and kick us off. So when it comes to communication and public speaking, it is a large part of my job. A big part of what I do is going to classrooms, presenting the internship opportunity to students, or going to career fairs, and public speaking in front of classrooms. But a large part of what we do at our office as well is going out to constituent events, so ribbon cuttings, groundbreaking ceremonies, certificate presentations, proclamation presentations, and speaking in front of anywhere from 5 people to 500 people. And so I've gotten to have quite a few experiences giving those big public speeches, naming a day after someone, and really being able to hone my public speaking skills further than what they were before I came onto the role in October. When it comes to just communication, though, a lot of my job is communicating with interns. Luckily, I'm very blessed to not have to necessarily just sit there and stare at spreadsheets all day. That's not really how I like to work. I like to be very active with talking to interns, talking to my coworkers. We have Microsoft Teams. I'm always the one to get up and actually walk around and go talk to my coworkers. So it's very important for me to be able to use communication effectively so that I'm not getting up more than I have to, because as much as I do like to talk in person, I also am a little bit lazy and don't like to walk around a lot. So, that's kind of some ways that I'm able to use both communication and public speaking within my day-to-day work that should help me further on in my career as well.
I'll jump in next. So for me as well, it can vary on a day-to-day basis. So oftentimes where my role where I have to jump in is there'll be a show and test cell. So usually I'll go out, talk to the technicians who are operating, running the test, kind of processing some of the information, and then going back. And our technical experts we have around the world. So I might be calling someone located in the Czech Republic who's a deep subject matter expert in combustion. Maybe we have some folks in Mexico. We have some folks downtown at Harbor Drive. So I'm kind of communicating all around. Another thing that I often do is leading teams meetings. So kind of preparing for that, preparing a slide deck to kind of talk about here's the issue, here's what the experts recommend, and kind of developing a path forward to make sure all of the stakeholders are project managers who interface with the customer, our operations management folks who will be overseeing the employees doing the work, make sure everyone's on the same. So I'll be calling teams meetings with usually 20 to 40 people in, just to make sure that the scope of work is clear. From there, I'll usually be issuing some technical documents where I'll be writing out clear instructions, summaries of the meeting, what was discussed, and kind of take some of that technical information I got from the subject matter experts and condensing it down into some information that our technicians can use. Additionally, I will oftentimes go and meet with our project manager folks directly. I've been holding calls with customers to kind of talk about we have a delay, this will affect their timeline. Oftentimes there are other things, other contractors that ran through the site. So they really want a clear explanation of what is going on, what is causing this delay. So with that, it'll be a lot of practice of talking with the technicians, talking to the subject matter experts, and then oftentimes what I'll do is I'll write down the information, form like a presentation, and then present it back to them before I bring that to a customer-facing role. All kinds of different communication types of in-person, through Teams, email. It all very much depends on the situation for the day, but it all kind of ties in with making sure that I'm clear and concise and including all the necessary people.
So as a counselor, I would say that my communication style is always about building rapport with the students, usually in a one-on-one setting. And this could be, just using really strong listening skills, making sure that I'm paraphrasing and understanding the students' needs clearly, and being, attentive to what their needs are. And then when I'm in a department meeting or like our team meeting, I feel our communication styles, it's more like a group setting, and so we take turns like sharing out what we're working on and like asking questions. And then there are committee meetings where we take votes and we learn about different issues on campus, and so that's where we also have opportunities to kind of voice our concerns, or just as voting members we might have something that we want to share with our committee members. And then when I shared with you that I've had multiple roles in the 10 years I've been here, I've had opportunities to kind of challenge myself. I've presented at 3 board meetings. I've used communication to lead at various conferences. So I've presented at numerous conferences. And I will say that it's definitely something that I would have never imagined when I decided to be a career counselor. But I've definitely had to kind of use that as an opportunity to grow. And so, those are some examples.
Thank you all. And it sounds like all of these careers need communication day in, day out, all different situations, communicating with different people, different stakeholders, and it may not have been something you knew the first day of work, the first month that you were starting your career, or as my daughters who just graduated college, they call it my grown-up job. Okay, moving on. So we talked a little bit earlier, Mona shared that one of the things that the career counselors help students with is practicing for their interviews. So as you think about any time that you have been on an interviewing panel, or you've been in a moment where you could interview future employees for your organization, the question is, what makes you an effective interview? What makes an effective interview in your field, and what advice would you give students preparing for an interview?
Yes, this is an excellent question. One thing, so I've been on both sides of the table, have interviewed for a number of roles, and then also have had the privilege of being on an interviewer for different roles at Solar and Caterpillar over the years. One thing that for myself, looking at roles, is the informational interview as mentioned. If I see a role and think like, okay, I might be interested in this, or even for career paths when I was leaving college, I did some informational interviews with, maybe it wasn't a role where I had direct experience in, but would ask someone of, okay, I have a friend who did an internship that was similar, what was their impression, maybe they worked for that same company, to get a better idea of what information I need to know going into the interview. Additionally, one of the things that I've kind of picked up on is, with like a large corporation like Solar or Caterpillar, is oftentimes one job will lead to another, so those experiences lead in. So that's one of the things, if I'm doing one of those informational interviews, a question I love to ask is, outside of like the immediate work group you're in, who do you interact with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Because sometimes maybe it's you really want a certain job, but you don't have the experience on paper, or you're a step away of, okay, what job can I find that can help me get me one step closer to getting to that job that I'm really excited for or really want. And then just kind of going into it with curiosity, as we were kind of talking about before. If it's something that you're passionate about and really love, that will show, and it's very apparent in interviews. Being an interviewer, when I'm interviewing someone, I can just tell that they're really excited about their past experiences. That makes me really want to just choose that person and hire that person.
For me, so it's a little bit different. Politics is kind of a smaller world, so to speak. A lot of people know, everybody else, and so similar situation. I've been on both ends of the table, being the person interviewed and also being an interviewer. And I'll say that in both cases, just with politics kind of being a small world, people know what you've done in the past. They know maybe what projects or what campaigns or what elected officials you've worked for. And really the big thing is kind of whether you won or lost on a campaign or whatever it might be, being able to kind of back up the decisions you made. You might get asked about, why'd you make this specific why'd you make this specific decision to maybe send mail pieces out to this group of folks instead of this group of folks, and being able to kind of back up that decision with confidence in your reasoning, regardless of whether you won or lost, because there's a lot of factors that play into campaigns and play into politics that sometimes are just going to be out of your control. On top of that, on the similar note, being able to show passion, it does show through when you're kind of defending those decisions as well, or not defending them, but explaining your reasoning. Being able to explain, this is why I did it, this is why I think it was important to do, and this is why I would probably make that decision again. It really does show through to interviewers when you're confident in yourself and confident in your decision making, whether it's maybe a technical interview that you're going through for, maybe going into software engineering. One of my buddies just finished up an interview, and he said that the biggest thing that he was proud of coming away from it was the fact that when he displayed this project that the company had him make, he was confident in its ability to work and confident in what he was able to achieve, regardless of whether he gets the job or not. So I think that's very important, is preparing yourself to go in there, really believing that you should have that job, because there's a very competitive job market right now. There's a lot of people that might be applying for that same job, and there will be a lot of people who get disheartened by having applied to 250 jobs and only landing this one interview, and maybe they just don't feel like they're very confident in their ability to get it. You just have to kind of keep your head up in those cases, and really just every time you get that interview, give it your all and give it your best. That's kind of the big thing.
Thank you. So I would say preparation is the key. Really understanding the role that you're applying for, reading the job description, many times highlighting, underlining, being able to really understand how your skills, your education, past work experiences, volunteer work, internships, anything like that, how it aligns with the needs of this particular role. Because a lot of times, we might have the imposter syndrome. We might be like, oh, do they really want me? I don't know. Well, I kind of know how to use this computer program, whatever it is, but I don't know, maybe they need somebody who's an expert. So I get that, we all have those moments where we're, questioning, do I have what it takes? But at the same time, don't be hard on yourself and really think. In your classes, sometimes you do projects. Those could go on your resume. If you're developing skills, you're learning a lot in the classroom. So even if you don't have a lot of work experience, pull from, maybe you don't have time to join clubs, maybe you are part of a club. Maybe you're a caretaker and you're juggling, a lot of different roles in your life. But each of you has a unique, piece that you can definitely contribute to whatever the job is. So preparation, I would say, and of course, I'm going to be biased, but we have our mock interviews here that we can offer, so you take advantage of those opportunities. I bombed my first interview. It was a phone interview. I'm aging myself. It was 2003. I was coming right out of, it was my last year undergrad in college, and I thought preparation meant having my resume ready right in front of me. So I had the phone interview and the resume was right in front of me, and where they were asking questions, I was trying so hard to like rehearse based on what was in front of me and not even really being able to pay attention to what they were asking me. I couldn't even finish the interview. I just said, I'm not ready, I'm sorry. And then I felt so embarrassed and terrible afterwards. But what a great learning experience, because then it made me realize I need help and it's okay. This is, it takes practice. And you keep working on it, and then be authentic, be yourself. Don't try to memorize answers or say things that you think they want you to say to get the job. Be professional. And then I would say it's not just a one-way street, it's two-way. So just as you are interviewing, or they're interviewing you, you're also interviewing them to see, is this even a good fit for me? Their mission, what they stand for. Do I feel like, can I see myself as part of this team? Or, how do I feel about it? So, yes, we all need jobs and we need to work, but also make sure that it's a good fit for you.
Thank you all. Was that helpful? Yeah, I think that's so insightful. So now we're going to talk a little bit about skill development in terms of our communication skills, and if any of you want to share an example or a story of how you've developed and or strengthened your communication skills throughout your career.
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk about my background. I got into politics when I was 17. I had somebody come into my classroom, do a classroom presentation, very similar to how I now do things, but basically invited me to join on this internship on a campaign, and I decided to do it just because I needed the volunteer hours. I was extremely shy. I didn't really feel comfortable talking to folks. I couldn't do anything like this right now. I was very much just like, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not going to talk to folks. I'm just going to, keep my head down and I'll be fine that way. During the internship on the campaign, a lot of what I had to do was be willing to start calling people, pick up the phone, talk to voters. That was something that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't call my family because I'm just I like to text. I don't like to do phone calls. I was way too nervous for it. But as I kind of have gone through this career, it has gone from not being able to really call people at all to my preferred form of communication being through calling people, or talking to somebody in person, or introducing myself to somebody I don't know. It's a really big step in my personal development to be able to go from somebody who was very shy in high school to where I am now, because it wasn't that long ago. Well, okay, it feels like it was a long time ago. It was 7 years ago now, so it is starting to get up there, and how long it's been since I was in high school. But it's still a very big change to see, and even when I'm talking to my parents or talking to my family members, they notice the change too. Every time I get to talk to my parents or talk to my mom, they live out in Detroit now, so it's every now and then we'll talk, and every time my mom's just you're way different than how I remember you when we moved away when you were 18. Because it is just in this career, I had to learn how to effectively talk to people. I had to learn how to be confident in introducing myself to people I don't know, because that was just what was required of me. And so really being able to strengthen my public speaking has opened up other opportunities for me, because I'm sure you guys hear a lot about networking and meeting people and whatnot. Networking goes a lot deeper than just LinkedIn and sending a connection request. I promise you that. But it's being able to go introduce yourself to somebody that you don't know just because they seem like an interesting person, and maybe they have some advice for you, maybe they're a potential future employer, maybe they're somebody who can help you land a job or help you transfer to that dream school. But if you're not willing to kind of take that step and go introduce yourself to them, you might miss out on those opportunities. So, just throughout my career, being able to take the initiative has always, proven to be fruitful. And even if it's a short conversation, I always get to walk away from it going, okay, you know what, at least I met somebody new today. Because a lot of the times nowadays, we like to not meet anybody. I think it is very important to go introduce yourself to someone that you don't know each day.
Yeah, I'll kind of tie in with that. One of the things that So going back, I was also pretty shy, and I still remember my second semester of college, my academic advisor told me something that terrified me was, next semester you're going to take a public speaking course. So I remember back when I was in your seat, and I was absolutely terrified. And I remember I was taking it with a bunch of seniors, and that helped me kind of get through doing that, and that was definitely a big step along the way. But additionally, kind of like was mentioned, don't worry about the first day. The first day you go in, the first time you're speaking with a group or something like that in a job, it might not go smoothly, but you can't keep your head down, you can't kind of dwell on it too much, you have to get up and keep going. I remember my first internship was following my junior year of college, which is a little bit later for most engineering students. I had an internship, and we had an issue, and I had to go teach a bunch of welders on how to do something, which was terrifying for me as a 21-year-old, having to go talk to a group of folks who were ranged from 20 to 50 and had been welding for their entire life, and go tell them, here's how you're going to be doing something. And it was definitely, I had a lot of learning experiences along the way of confidence and understanding, here's the decision, here's the technical aspect I have of it, and kind of sharing it with them, but then also being receptive to, here's the feedback that they offer. In addition, out of college, my first role at Caterpillar full-time was in supply chain. So I was cold calling suppliers and saying, hey, you've never heard from me before, we're buying these parts and we're having these things, we need to move around orders. So I kind of work up the confidence of that, and then kind of get into a rhythm of how that works and learn, meet the other person and kind of learn through them. I had suppliers around the world, so kind of learning other people's communication skills, what they look for in communication, and then also just being incredibly clear. So here's what we're needing. What do you need? Kind of doing that win-win back and forth. That taught me a lot. And then after that, my next role was a production supervisor. So I remember my first day, I was, okay, here's the 20 employees that are going to be working for you, going forward and talking to them. Once again, I was super nervous and had to kind of learn the employees, learn about myself and what to communicate. So the main thing I'll stress is, do not worry if you stumble early. You'll get better. Each of those stumbles is a learning opportunity, and you'll strengthen your skills. Will continue to hone as time progresses.
Great tips. So I'm another shy person. Well, I used to. So I never raised my hand in elementary school, middle school, high school, undergrad. It wasn't until my late 20s as a grad student that I was like, oh, my voice matters. I don't have to be fully polished, and it's okay if, what I say, I used to think, it might be dumb what I share. It's not good enough. But I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I just got to take a risk. And I'm not always raising my hand, even now, I'm not in a classroom setting, but I feel over time, the beauty of just kind of growing and having different experiences in life and being put in various situations, you continue to realize, it's okay. And you'll start taking more risks, and you'll start seeing, oh, that wasn't too bad. And so I encourage you to, don't put pressure on yourself. But at the same time, maybe it's starting with one-on-one type of risks, right? So maybe you wouldn't necessarily go to an employer recruiter, but you start with that as your first goal of I'm going to go to a job fair and start, have a little conversation and introduce myself and see how that feels. And then maybe over time, it'll be something like in a small classroom setting where you actually are going to try to contribute and share an idea or a thought that you normally would have felt uncomfortable doing. So again, it's usually not an overnight, all of a sudden I'm born into this amazing public speaker. Of course, individuals who are outgoing or maybe extroverts, it might come a little bit more naturally. But nevertheless, I think all of you have the potential to share, and your voice really matters. So please, each day try to see if you can do something to, if it's a one-on-one type of setting or meeting, going up to strangers sometimes. I know I've gone up to strangers at the airport, the person who's sitting next to me, start chatting with them. Sometimes they want to go to sleep, and that's okay too. All right, so how have I developed and strengthened? I would say, again, just over time, taking risks. So one of the scariest tasks I had as a career counselor before I started working in the community college setting was when I worked for a 4-year, there was a classroom, I think, with 200 students, or more than 200 students, that I was going to do a presentation for on resumes. And that sounded very intimidating because it was such a large class. But it was fine. I got through it. And so again, you start sort of building like more and more comfort the more you put yourself out there.
Thank you all. I think these are just great testimonies that we all continue to grow in our career. When we have a career, there's always professional growth that just automatically comes with personal growth also. So thank you for those stories. This is our last question, and it's a big question, and yet I want to make sure our time is shorter on this so that we can move to our student questions, give enough time for that. So we've all been hearing a lot about AI in classrooms, in the news. We know that AI is affecting the workplace. So the question is, with AI changing the workplace, has it impacted your communication in your industry? And if so, can you give a brief description of what that looks like? And maybe it hasn't affected, maybe AI hasn't affected it directly, but what are your thoughts about AI?
Yeah, so one thing, that way that I've kind of started using AI, so Caterpillar, they've really pushed and said we encourage using AI, using Copilot in particular. And the way I've kind of implemented it into my own life is, one of the things that I've kind of recognized about myself is when I'm writing an email, oftentimes there'll be a couple paragraphs. I'm very long-winded. I'll try to provide all the information needed to make sure that I answer any possible question that someone has. And I've started using Copilot to ask, okay, can you go through and maybe offer like a summary, check it for brevity, maybe there's some things that I don't need to include, and maybe some ways to reword. So that's definitely helped me with kind of shortening those emails, because I've definitely gotten a call before I'll send out an email, and I'll have a manager call me and be like, okay, George, give me a very quick run through. I'm not going to read all that, which is I always find very funny. I don't take offense to it. And then additionally for making PowerPoints, things like that. So very often I'm making, probably once a week, I'll be making a PowerPoint to present to a customer and say, here's an update with an issue with an engine, or maybe it's we're requesting a deviation or an acceptance of one of the characteristics out of spec during our testing. So I'll submit that and kind of offer an explanation. And oftentimes the explanation I'll get working with our technical experts is very, very in the weeds technical, and I'll use Copilot to help me lighten this up and present it to someone who maybe doesn't have the technical expertise, and kind of present it in that way. So that's where I've kind of worked at, and it's helped speed things up quite a bit, where oftentimes I'd spend a couple hours trying to read through it, okay, reword, read through it, reword, and it's kind of helped speed up that process.
So I'll say that politics has probably been one of the, funnily enough, slowest industries to actually start to adopt AI into anything. There's a lot of folks that are still a bit skeptical about it. However, within our office, what I know is that we've been, fairly encouraged to start using Copilot a lot more, finding ways to be able to use that, whether it's helping us reword our emails or helping us kind of create our databases of constituents and whatnot. But one thing that I've noticed in a shift recently within the political realm has been a lot of the graphic design has been getting done by or assisted by a lot more AI tools. It's been very interesting to see, if you guys need to know how into politics I am, I'm getting Instagram ads about companies that are 100% oriented towards helping political campaigns create mail pieces using 100% AI. So it is somewhat starting to kind of change the way that We communicate with voters and communicate with constituents. It is still very slowly being adopted into some of the more long-form writing that's done in politics. So it's been a little bit interesting to watch as it's started to evolve. I think there's still a lot of people that are skeptical about it, as I mentioned, in our field. But I do think that over the next 5 years or so, as there's more policies put in place, like the county actually just came out with their policies about what AI tools county employees can use. I know the state is looking at doing something similar if they haven't already. But I know that as more official bodies start to implement these policies, it's going to end up trickling down to campaigns, and campaigns are going to start to become a little bit more of the Wild West with how they use AI for their writing, for their mail pieces, for their email blasts that they do. I'm sure some of you guys have maybe gotten texts before asking you to donate to a campaign. Those are probably going to be written by AI. It's going to be changing a lot over the next 5 years, so it's a very exciting time to be in the political realm, because you get to really watch what happens when, I mean, realistically, people that are willing to spend a lot of money on campaigns are looking at using these AI tools, because there's going to be a lot of investment in them over the next 5 years.
Ed tech is a big, big business right now, so there are a lot of companies that are partnering with higher education space. I will say there are a lot of opportunities for us in education to learn about AI usage. Just the past 2 weeks I've attended 2 professional development AI-related events. We on our campus have the Miramar AI network for our employees, and so for me, I'm at a curiosity stage where I'm trying to learn. I think it's really messy right now, AI. And there's a lot of like ethical concerns, and depending on who you ask and how they feel about it, there's like, you know, your own personal views. But then when you think about your role and, you know, how that aligns with the impact that you're making with students, I think, you know, balancing that can be a bit of a challenge for some individuals. For myself, I will say in the career space, or career planning, career, you know, goal setting, it's been helpful in the sense of brainstorming, because earlier I mentioned that current job market and just predicting, a lot of times students will come to the career counselors and ask like, I'm majoring in such and such, but I don't know, is AI gonna kind of take my job that I'm planning to go into? Is that gonna be safe? And, you know, we can only go by labor market trends, and, you know, we don't have the crystal ball. I wish we did. But looking at ways of using AI for me is really brainstorming, like, where are the gaps in society? Can you give me some language for skills? So earlier we talked about job descriptions or job-like postings. So I like to use AI to kind of pull, like, what are some hot skills, like really in-demand skills that are being sought after like that? They're, you know, paying livable wages, and if geographically, like in San Diego, there's definitely high demand. And so quickly pulling that kind of data for me has been useful to give students some information. Now, I am aware that AI can make mistakes, so a lot of times I do look at like economists' reports in labor market and just finding ways to look at different resources before I give students, you know, guidance on potential skills or positions. There's a lot of new fields that are emerging, there's a lot of change that's happening, and so, but at the same time, I will, when it comes to resumes and cover letters, I encourage students to still use their voice, don't be over-reliant on AI. Still, you know, you can use it for like editing, but at the same time, you don't want every resume to look like it was, you know, AI has been doing it for them. Again, from the HR recruiter's perspective, they are using it, you know, just like the old application tracking system. They're using a lot of AI to do that. So curiosity for me, learning, and then in terms of prepping students for the future, like if there are certain AI certificates or professional development opportunities, I do encourage us to just learn and then later decide, like, is this something that I want to use, or how do I feel about it? And so just being really open in the space right now, and I know it's really competitive, so if there are opportunities for you to whether it's take a course or go to some type of like a talk where you can learn about AI. There's a lot of free online tools. So I would say, just stay curious.
Thank you.